Good evening. This is episode 4. Today it's January 13th, 2021. And I'm going to be continuing another story on the planet Earth. The planet Mirth, which is in a far corner of the galaxy in another timeline. And this is for entertainment purposes only, and anything that's similar or a coincidence of what happens on planet Earth is purely a figment of your imagination. Okay. As I said in my earlier episodes, planet Mirth has religions and political parties that are kind of followed by a lot of different races on the planet, and you have all kinds of colors on this planet and make up tribes. There's red, white, and blue, green, gray, black, brown, and a whole bunch of other colors. And these religious or political parties, they have leftists, rightists, people that bow down to this rising sun, people that bow down to the setting sun, and centralists. Now, the rightists and leftists, what they do is when they come to an intersection, the rightists will turn all the way around one time to the right, and the leftists will turn all the way around to the left one time, and the others will bow down in the direction of the sun or setting sun or rising or whatever. And then the centralists, all they do is turn their head one way and then the other and nod, and then they proceed. And since this takes less time, they get ahead faster than the other people. And these centralists have, because they get ahead faster, they over time became the governing bodies. Now, the elite. But originally, they were just servants of the masses, of all the other colors and all the other races. And they used to get less money for doing this, but they convinced a lot of the legislation that they deserved equal pay. So after a time, they got equal pay. And then they said, well, we need a automatic cost of living increase. So they got that. And after a while, they were making more money than the producers who were paying what they call taxes to support the one-time servants. And so then the centralists said, well, we need early retirement. So they got that. And we need benefits and privileges above that. So they got all that, and pretty soon they were making way more money than the people who provided their well-being. And so they became, the general population became the servants of the elite. And so the elite, the centralists, with all this extra money, they took over the medias and the news, and which they call news, but it was just media propaganda, really. And they took over the schools, and they taught everybody that listened that if they mixed their bloods, that they would be better off. And so the many people started mixing their bloods, and they became confused and degenerated and more corrupt because they were more confused, and they listened more and more to what the elite said rather than having sense of their own. So the mixes still had intelligent people because that's just the way genetics works, but they just didn't have as many, and they had less self-independence, pure thoughts and reasoning. Plus, they tended to eat more what the elite told them to eat, and the elite own most of the food production systems, so they put a lot of pollution in the food and additives such as natural flavoring, which was preservative, and things that went to their brain and simplified their brains. So you see the elite centralists who governed everybody got further ahead, and then they told the general population to appoint them as representatives. And by signing up for this, the general population gave up their lawful power of attorneys. And so they couldn't even trade amongst themselves anymore because the elites were controlling, as middlemen, trade, which was kind of like what they have on Earth is money lenders. And that's what bankers and most of the middlemen are, is they come in the middle of trade, and then of course they add more and more and more fees when there's more and more middlemen there, and so after a while they're controlling all trade. And anyway, that's kind of some background, getting off the subject, but so when the school systems had most of the general population brainwashed, it was very difficult for things to get anywhere. And so basically what was happening is that the elite, the centralists, were running a parasite operation here, where they had to keep going outside their borders and bringing in more suckers so that they could extract taxes or blood money or whatever you want to call it, energy, from those outside the system, because it was a debt creation system and it had to continually get larger and larger. So it was basically a parasitical situation. That's what happens when you get into debt. So they needed to acquire new blood. And that's what they did by going outside their border or welcoming in, fooling more suckers with their enticements of that we got all these benefits and privileges and things going for us. And it looked like it to those outside, but they didn't realize they were giving up their freedom. Now, since things were smoothly going along, there came a time when planet Mirth became overpopulated. And you understand, overpopulation depends on what that overpopulated number is by how high of living standards that population utilizes and eats up what is available. So a population with a lower standard of living can be many, 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 many greater numbers. But as the occupants in that whatever area gets higher standard of living and uses more stuff, the actually fewer numbers can exist because that population uses up more minerals and more of everything. So as the people from outside the border came in and got higher standard of living, actually the amount of people that were on planet Mirth, the planet Mirth couldn't support as many people. Now, this had happened over and over and over in the past history, but the teachers, the academia, and the centralists and the media hid all that. And they told the masses of people that, we are the first great civilization. And if you follow our guidelines from this elite, we will all do better. And of course this elite put them under a kind of a communist equal order and told them that this was great because that way the elite, who were always above, could dictate things. Now this elite were called different things. They were called representatives, as I said before, and I'm losing my train of thought. And anyway, so they would come up with these ideas like wars to reduce the population, or vaccinations, or food, putting things in the food that would shorten the lifespan of the general population. And they would sort of keep this secret, but one of the universal laws was that they had to always tell the general population that what they were going to do to them. And this is a universal law that's all across the galaxy. It's kind of like natural law. Now some people call it a satanic law, but it's just the way things are. Because if you tell somebody what you're going to do to them, you're not fooling them. However, once you've told them that one time, at least one time, then you can give them the shaft. You can lie to them, and you can do all sorts of things to them because you've told them what you were going to do. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that, but that's the way things are. So anyway, they had various ways. The masses eventually got wise that, wars weren't really good, like the elite told them. So they had to go to other means of reducing the population. Now, the situation that I'm telling you is basically hell. That's what it is. There's ways of living according to the tree of life, what the creator of the universe, some people know it as the natural laws, that if you live that way according to the natural laws that have always existed, you can have a heaven on earth. Of course, you have to not overpopulate. Now, studies had been done on planet Mirth with the little tiny four-legged furry creatures what would happen with overpopulation. And so these studies were out there, but the school systems and the media convinced everybody that science and anybody that got the truth would be hurting people's feelings. And it was preached that, oh, you can't hurt people's feelings, so that was put first. And so basically science ceased to exist from that point on, because you're always going to hurt somebody's feelings, and the truth hurts people's feelings more than lies do. Because lies, you can sucker people into whatever you're lying about. But truth has a way of exposing itself, and lies, and following truth sets you on a narrower path, because you have to keep following that direction of truth. But of course that didn't matter, because that was out the window. It was okay to lie because you didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So there was various ways of culling the population, and a lot of people got called dirty names and got rocks and stones thrown at them for trying to speak the truth, because the purpose of life is to figure out right from wrong, and to ultimately pursue the tree of life rather than the tree of good and evil, which basically is what the elite and the centralists, the governing bodies, were propagandizing or projecting onto the general population. So you ended up having hell on Mirth rather than anything akin to higher civilization. Another thing that ceased to exist, the elite and the powers that be and the centralists all had a invested interest on regular technology, standard technology. So what eventually occurred is that any new technology could not come to be, because it would be threatening what the invested interests of the elite and their corporations had. So you had to have a breakaway civilization come about, where the people of that breakaway civilization were completely disconnected from the system that was run by the centralists, the elite. So you had a parallel or a dual system continue. And that's a deep subject there too that I could go on and on for. Well, it's 9 minutes there. I'm going to end this